Okay, so couple nights ago, so today is Wednesday the 5th, so on Monday the 3rd, Clay and I watched Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken. And I know I had said this before, like I specifically had to watch it with Clay because we watched all the DreamWorks movies together, started it last year, did the bulk of it this year. We watched Puss in Boots in theaters. We're going to be watching Trolls 3 in theaters. We got to watch this one in theaters. We got to watch it together. Something that's really interesting to me is apparently, like, a lot of people had no idea this movie existed or was coming out. Like, I know the movie is not doing well financially. Like, it is DreamWorks' worst movie in terms of box offices. It's a bomb, which to me is really sad. Like, I don't want to see, I believe I've said this in other videos before. I don't try to root for something to fail unless it's like actively awful. Like if this is a movie made by the fucking KKK, I want to see it fail because the KKK is fucking awful. But aside from something like that, yeah, I hope it does well. I want people to watch it. If they don't like it, they don't like it, but I want people to give it a chance. I've been enjoying the DreamWorks movies after we went through them all. But I remember, like, reading, because I saw an article on Twitter, and it was something like, yeah, this is, like, the worst performing DreamWorks movie. And then it was, like, the top comment or so was something along the lines of, okay, did anyone else, is this other people's first time hearing about this movie? I've never heard of it. And I've seen a lot of tweets like that, a lot of them, like, Instagram, Twitter, all kinds of shit. I'm like, what? Am I the only person who knew this was coming out? Am I the only person who actively wanted to see it? Is it just because I actually go to movie theaters now? Because, like, yeah, like I've said, like, I've watched a good handful of movies in theaters, like, with some of my friends, and I kept seeing advertisements for Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken. And it is, I think, also because Clay and I did the DreamWorks marathon. It's like, okay, a new DreamWorks movie coming out. I gotta keep my eye on it. Like, I want to stay abreast. I want to stay up to date. I want to being caught up. We were the only two people in the theater for a decent chunk. It felt like maybe 15, 20 minutes. And then another family came in, and I remember feeling, on the one hand, I was like, okay, other people are coming to see the movie. Like, that's good. Again, I hope it does well. But I was also like, I kind of was hoping it would just be the two of us, so I could watch the movie and not have to shut up. And again, not that we were planning on doing like an MST3K thing, but just it feels nice to be, because like that we've been doing that in the DreamWorks movies. Like if we want to talk during the movie and like discuss shit, we can do that. It's nice to have that option, and we almost fucking did. Now I know I've been rambling for a bit and not actually talking about the movie itself, but there's one other thing I have to say. This review will not be a no spoiler, mild spoiler, full spoiler. Not because it's not like I saw the movie and went like, wow, there is nothing to spoil. It is that predictable. It is so easy. Like if you have two brain cells, you know exactly where the movie's going the second you see the title. No, I mean, I a little bit, but not really. Excuse me, I remember like watching the movie and going like, huh, there are a couple things here that could be like spoilery stuff. Unless you have seen the trailer. Because the trailer reveals everything. Now, again, not the actual execution, but here are the things in the movie that I think could be considered spoilers. Ruby can turn into a giant kraken. That's in the trailer. Ruby is Kraken royalty, and her grandmama is the queen of all the oceans. That's in the trailer. As a Kraken, she got, like, cool powers. You see all those powers in the trailer. That mermaids are a problem in the trailer. It's the actual selling point of the movie. And the climax of a giant kaiju battle between a big fucking Kraken and a big fucking mermaid. So it's like there's actually nothing to spoil because the trailer already did it. So this is gonna just be a full spoiler review the entire way. And yeah, that's all I can say about that. So let's actually talk about Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken. The first thing I have to say is I really like the look of the movie. So, sorry, just like really early on, like the first scene early on is they talk about how, okay, so the Gillman family, they are a family of Kraken. They live on land. It is the rule of the family, like, don't go into the water. You're not supposed to go into the ocean. But we live pretty close by because we have to stay moist. And there's even a joke where, like, the uncle's like, moist. I fucking hate that word. No, they didn't actually drop an F-bomb in a DreamWorks movie. Okay, they might have in Puss in Boots too, because then Burrito is giving his censored rant, but if they did technically drop an F-bomb, it was censored. But not in this movie. But they talk about it like, yeah, we pretend to be human, but people aren't supposed to know what we actually are. And I was like, wait, so is this just Octodad? What the fuck? And so I love the way they move, because they do take advantage of that. Like, yes, they're not just blue humans with, like, tentacles. Like, no, they don't have spines. Like, they can, especially when they're alone, they're, like, super stretchy. The way they just can, like, move and contort and shit. You don't always get a lot of it, but when you do, I'm like, this is really cool to look at. I kind of love it. The movie is also very colorful. Underwater, it's like you got like Ruby, I think she's pink. I think it's on land, she looks more purpley, but then, like, in her big Kraken form, but then she can also glow, and it's a bit more pinkish. Grandmama is this nice kind of, like, turquoise, algae-ish color. Even just on land and ocean side, it's like, this is a very colorful movie. I like that. I think it's just visually appealing. Yes, that's just the first thing to say. I think the movie looks nice. Just the second thing, I just have to bring this up. So, like I said, they're like, yeah, we're pretending to be human so we can try to fit in, but, they're fucking blue. So the way they get around that is they just tell people they're Canadian. And everyone believes it. They're like, oh yeah, you're from Canada. You must be blue. That tracks. Like, yeah, it's really cold up there. And while watching the movie, I remember thinking to myself, is that really funny or is it really dumb? Those might not be mutually exclusive. I'm like, do I love this or hate this? And then when I thought about it a little bit more, I was like, you know what? This reminds me, I was telling Clay this earlier, it's like, this reminds me of a very specific joke from Chalk Zone, where Snap leaves Chalk Zone and is hanging out with Rudy and Penny in the classroom. And he pretends to be a foreign exchange student, and then someone, I think the teacher's like, where are you from, Snap? Greenland. To which Reggie Bullnerd, the bully, goes, well, if you're from Greenland, why are you blue? To which Snap, without missing a beat, just says, because it's very cold there, Reggie Bullnerd. I'm like, oh my gosh. Intentional or not, they just pulled a fucking Chalk Zone on me. This is brilliant. Like, I can't hate this anymore. This is not dumb. This is amazing. I'm all on board for it. They're Canadian, so they're blue. Which, quick tangent, I feel like it's been a while since I've done, the Sea Cats video didn't come out that long ago, and there was a good tangent in there. But I need to do a good tangent real quick. Speaking of Chalk Zone, apparently Nickelodeon Smash is going to be getting a sequel. Apparently it's been leaked. They've shown off some of the new characters, like Raph is going to be in there. Should have been the fucking first game, let's be honest. You're going to have 4 Ninja Turtles characters and not have all 4 Ninja Turtles. What? And apparently Raph, Vlad Plasmius from, I almost said from Jimmy Neutron, from Danny Phantom. I almost said Jimmy Neutron because apparently he's going to be in it. El Tigre is going to be in it. Like, okay, that's some cool shit. That's some cool shit. I wanted some Chalk Zone in the first game. I think Chalk Zone sounds like a very fun level, more than a character, although I would like to see Snap. But if there is one character that I want to see in this game, that would make me go, I didn't love the first game. I didn't really like the first game, but fuck it. I gotta get this sequel. I'm gonna play it. I am going to dedicate real time and effort to become the best player in the world at this game. Would be Blue from Blue's Clues. Steve is acceptable. But I want to Blue Skidoo somebody. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that is a spike, if that's like 4 stalking or maybe 3 stalking. I don't really know how they tend to do it in Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. But if I can just clown people with Blue from Blue's Clues, this might be the greatest game of all time. I'm sorry, but talking about Nickelodeon shit and Blue characters, like, I have to bring this up. But let's bring it back to Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken. Yes, I'm going to be saying the full title the entire time. I don't know why I find it so funny. It's not even, like, an inherently funny title. It just tickles me for some reason, and I don't know why, but it is what it is. But I do want to talk about, like, a lot of... Like I said earlier, it's like, for the first few minutes, I was like, oh, so this is Octodad? Interesting choice, but okay. There's definitely other things it pulls from. The first one, which is kind of the most obvious, is there's a lot of allusions to The Little Mermaid. I made a list. So, first off, you have Chelsea, which is the mermaid, and she's fantastic, by the way. She's fucking hilarious. She just looks like Ariel. It's like, okay, that's pretty surface level, but that makes a lot of sense. Like, it looks like the Disney version of The Little Mermaid. There's also a line, I think when she's first introduced, where she's like, yeah, I'm from Denmark. Or she's like, yeah, I'm Danish. I'm like, yeah, Hans Christian Andersen was Danish. That's actually a really, like, I like that a lot. I think I was smiling pretty hard at that line. Excuse me. When you actually see the Kraken Kingdom, like their capital, it looked to me kind of a bit like Atlantica. I remember Clay kind of whispering to me, he's like, man, like, Atlantica's been real quiet since this came out. I was like, yeah, like, they fucking look identical. You've got, there is a big magic trident that is the MacGuffin of the movie, which I don't even think, I could be wrong, I don't think there's, like, a super important trident in the original fairy tale. I think that's just more of the Disney version. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But I'm like, okay, that's another thing to the Disney version of The Little Mermaid. The climax of the movie... Okay, so first off, for the climax of the movie is the monster becomes giant and is a fucking kaiju. There's also a party boat. Like, in this movie, it's because there's prom, and prom is going to be on a boat. In the Disney version... I think also in the original fairy tale, it's like the wedding is on a boat at sea. I'm like, okay, that's another thing you've got going there. We're making all the set pieces. There is a short sequence when she first goes into the water where her uncle's like, yeah, underwater's like really cool. Like, he's not actually like quoting Under the Sea, but like she's looking at all the sea creatures and is becoming enamored with it. I'm like, okay, so this is the Under the Sea part of the movie. Okay, like there's a list growing. Like, that's okay. This is a lot more like The Little Mermaid than I thought. Okay, I'm not opposed to it. It's one of my favorite Disney movies. Chelsea being from Denmark. There's the whole thing where Triton was expressly forbidding Ariel from going up to the surface, but here it is Ruby's mom, Agatha, is specifically forbidding her from going into the water. So, like, this is the world I really want to see. Too bad, kiddo. This is what I'm telling you to do. Also, the saving your love interest from drowning, but someone else getting the credit for it, which is a huge part of the original fairy tale, and a huge part of the Disney version as well. It does happen here, but they do almost nothing with it. And I will say, that to me, honestly, was probably my biggest disappointment in the movie. It was like, yeah, I mean, like, you're not trying to be The Little Mermaid. You're not trying to be one for one. And I'm glad you're honestly really trying to be another movie, which I'll get to in a second. Excuse me. But that's a really important part of the fairy tale because it comes back. This just didn't. It was, yeah, Chelsea just kind of is like, yeah, you know, I guess in a way, because there's a part where Ruby is being hunted by this crazy dude. I don't remember his name. It's like Mr. Lighthouse, Gorge Lighthouse, something like that. And he's fucking great. I loved him. But he's obsessed with hunting krakens. He's trying to hunt Ruby, and Chelsea saves her. And she's like, yeah, I mean, I owed you an underwater rescue because I kind of sort of took all the credit from yours. That's the only way it comes back, but not like yeah, her love interest is now, his name was Connor, by the way. It's not like Connor's really into Chelsea because he thinks Chelsea saved her instead of Ruby, like it is in the fairy tale. And like, I feel like maybe something could have been done with that. It's a really important part of the original story, so it would have been really nice for it to have meaning here instead of just happening to happen, but alright. But like I said, well, let me check. Was there anything else I wanted to say? No. Okay. So in addition to The Little Mermaid, the Disney version and the original fairy tale, but mostly the Disney version, there is another movie under the Disney license that Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken is very similar to. What the fuck is that? I don't know what this is. I think this is trash. Did Bahamut shed like a giant tooth or something? Anyways, I don't know what the fuck that was. I think it was plastic. I hope it was plastic. There's another movie that this one really borrows from. And I don't know how much, like with The Little Mermaid, like this is intentional. And I love it. This I don't know if was this intentional? Was this both of these ideas were, no pun intended, but kind of floating around at the same time and the other one got made first? But Turning Red, eerily fucking similar to Turning Red. So I made another list. It's like, these were the similarities that I noticed. You have your main character, who is a smart, but kind of like socially awkward girl in either high school or middle school. I think Turning Red was middle school. I could be wrong about that. But that middle school, high school area, she's got her small but tight group of friends who want to attend a big event. In this, it's prom. In Turning Red, it was, I don't remember the name of the boy band. But they wanted to attend a boy band concert. I remember watching the movie. I feel like when I heard the name of the boy band, I was like, that's really fucking funny. But I can't remember what it is. I feel bad. But you gotta ask your mom. Mom specifically says no. Turns out that mom has a very strained relationship with her own mother. And the lack of communication, which I just talked about Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. So communication's the most fucking important thing, man. But poor communication of their lives and family magic and shit is kind of leading to a strained relationship with her own daughter, who ends up becoming pretty tight with the Ruby becomes very tight with her grandmama. I don't remember if May her name. I'm 90% sure her name was May. May, I think, became pretty close with her grandma in Turning Red, but I might be misremembering that. It's been a while and we saw it once. I wrote gam gam instead of grandma or grandmama. I don't know why. I just love the phrase gam gam. All the women in the family turn into creatures. Their emotions play a big part of it. Now, in Turning Red, it was just like, yeah, your emotional state is what determines that you transform, if I'm remembering correctly. And in this, it was essentially you turn when you're in the water, like in the ocean, but emotions do play a part in powers. Like, there's a montage of Ruby trying to learn some of her powers for shit, which, if you've seen the trailer, you've basically already seen the montage, too. It's like, okay, like a way of, like, controlling how you're swimming, like, to kind of glide through the water. You have to let go of yourself, or, like, let go of your past, let go of your issues, and just float. Okay, that's an emotion thing. The laser eyes, it's like, it's motivated by your frustration, your anger, your rage. That's what powers it. Okay. Emotions. The body armor, I don't think so. It didn't sound like that's how it was explained. But the size growing, kind of. Possibly my favorite scene in the whole movie is Ruby becomes giant Kraken. She's on land. She doesn't know what the fuck is going on. She is terrified. She's like trying to hide. Her mom sees it and is kind of like, Ruby? But when she gets there, like, at first you can tell, like, mom's mad, mom's ready to, like, say some shit. And Ruby is just terrified because she doesn't know what the fuck is going on with her. She doesn't know why she is a giant purple kraken. And her mom is just like, hey, can we talk? I'd like to be able to talk. And Ruby's like literally the size of a lighthouse. So she just like moves her tentacle. Mom gets on it. And then they just talk for a bit. And Agatha, communication's fucking important. And then Agatha is just like, hey, like, do you remember, like, that beached whale you found? I don't remember the name of the whale. I feel bad now. And then but Ruby's like, yeah, you mean him? And then as they're just talking, and Ruby is able to relax, and she's able to just release the stress, she's getting smaller and smaller and smaller until they're both normal sized. And it's just a really fucking sweet scene. I adored it. It was precious as hell. But very clearly, part of the ability is tied to the emotional state. What I like about that one in particular, it's like, okay, my attack, my laser eyes is built on my, anger or my frustration. To be able to fly, you've got to let go of your stress. Like, those make sense. And I don't want to be like, those make sense, this one didn't, and I liked that. It's like, no, it's like, those feel very obvious, but I still appreciate it. It's Ruby wants to feel small and be unseen. That's just kind of who she is. She's like, we have to hide what we are, try to not be, just try to be as human as possible, try to fit in. But when her stress is kicking in, instead of it making her smaller, it makes her bigger. And I thought that was really interesting. It's almost the opposite of like, I feel small and weak, but instead of my body getting smaller to accommodate, it's getting bigger to make up for it. I don't know. I was like, that kind of clicked with me. And not in a sense where it's like, yeah, like I am someone that generally feels small and I want to be bigger or anything. Sorry, I was realizing how goofy that sounded. I was like, nothing like that. I was just like, I kind of like the idea that they're going for. Other similarities to Turning Red. There's a... Okay, and then also that, yeah, the movie ends with a fucking giant kaiju battle. That's it. But it's like, there's a lot. And it just even feels like the way the movie is executed. I'm like, this feels kind of similar. I don't know how much of it was these two ideas were, again, floating around the same time. Turning Red came out first. If Turning Red full-on inspired Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken, and that's why like it took a few years. Like, I genuinely don't know. I feel like I kind of needed to point it out because I could not unsee it while watching the movie. I do feel like one of the biggest differences is, while both of them you do kind of get the idea of like, all right, this is a puberty metaphor, I think there is a point where Ruby's dad is like, yeah, I mean, your body is going through some changes right now. You're like, okay. But aside from that one line, it felt like this movie was a lot more subtle about it being a metaphor for puberty. Whereas in Turning Red, like, no, that is just the main theme of the movie is we are dealing with puberty and how your body is changing. And like, as a woman, you are now going to have periods and all that kind of stuff. Which, I will be perfectly honest, just didn't super appeal to me personally in Turning Red. I am not one of those people that's like, that has no place in a movie. Like, no, of course that has place in a movie. This is something that a lot of people go through. I would say probably about 50% of the population goes through, more or less. I don't mind that being a thing in a movie, even for kids, because they are going to have to go through it. Someone might be at that age where they are going through it. It gives them a character to relate to, gives them a situation to relate to. I'm all for that. Me, myself, personally, I'm like, I prefer the one where she shoots laser eyes. But, that's just me personally. I still enjoyed Turning Red overall, especially like when it starts getting closer to the ending. Like, I felt that was a lot stronger. At least it appealed to me on a more deeper level. So the next thing I have to say about Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken is it says in the title, teenage. It's a teen movie. It is that middle school, high school, who are you gonna ask to prom bullshit that I love, that I really have a soft spot for. I grew up watching shows like As Told by Ginger and Lizzie McGuire. I'm into that shit. One of my favorite movies of all time is Mean Girls. And this is not Mean Girls. It doesn't go quite that hard, and I wish it did. But there's a few moments here or there I was like, oh, Ruby's literally a mathlete. And I was like, oh, she's just Katie Heron. Oh no, please don't go full Katie Heron. Don't push Chelsea in front of a bus. But it's like, you do get a lot of those kinds of tropes, you know, like it is prom and about the socially awkward kid, not super fitting in, but here's the really popular girl who seems like everything's going super great for her and everyone's fawning over themselves over her. The relationship with the parents and the annoying little brother, and is that part of the movie really standard? Yes, it's super tropey. Yes, but it's shit that I just enjoy. So I can't hate it by any means. I get why someone wouldn't. I get why someone would go, this just ain't doing it for me. Can we get back to the kaiju shit? And I'm like, nah, this is the shit I want more than the kaiju shit. Let's see. I already talked about this, like how the trailers already spoiled all the shit to spoil in the movie, which is why I'm not framing it like a no spoiler, mild spoiler shit. One thing I will say is something about the pacing felt kind of off. The movie is only 90 minutes. I think it's 91 minutes, including the credits. So it's pretty short. For some reason, it felt long. Like, it felt... This feels weird to say. It almost felt longer than Spider-Verse, and Spider-Verse is notably longer. And that might just be because, like, Spider-Verse felt quick, because I was so invested. I was like, man, like, I know we're getting to the point where the movie's about to end. I could go another couple hours. Maybe it is because Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken, is more low-key in what it's about. I don't know what it is. Maybe it was just because the pacing just felt weird. I was like, this feels kind of long. I know it isn't, but also at the same time was like, I think we're about to do the climax. Are we doing the climax already? Has enough shit happened to get to the climax? The part I remember the most going, that was weird. There's a point where she is talking to Chelsea, who again is probably the best thing in the movie. And she's like, oh my god, like we're like, you're my undersea super secret bestie. And you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna have a skip day. And so the idea is that, like, all right, they play hooky, they go into the ocean together, and they just like swim around, go see the world, do some cool shit. And I'm like, you know what? I'm down for this. I want to see these two characters hang out. I want to see them, like, work off each other. This could be some interesting shit. This could be really fun. And then I blinked and it was over. Like, oh, I guess we're just fast forwarding over their relationship and over them bonding and becoming good friends. Gee, it almost feels like I'm not supposed to get invested in their friendship. Like it's all bullshit or something. Be a real shame if I saw the trailers and it completely revealed that this is all bullshit and then I shouldn't even try to get invested. Because I remember thinking to myself at one point, like, I know exactly where the movie is going, but what if it pulls a fast one on me? What if what's actually going to happen is all the trailers were just, it was misaimed marketing. It's like we were deliberately misleading everybody. The friendship between Ruby and Chelsea is real. They actually become good friends. There actually is, like, there's this bitter rivalry between mermaids and Kraken, and they genuinely want to fix it, but just some shit happens. Like, Chelsea is not manipulating her to get the trident so she can get revenge and shit. It just kind of being around it makes her go nuts Or another mermaid grabs it and goes nuts. Because they talk a few times about how Grandmama is a bit of a warlord, a bit of a warmonger. And like, what if she's actively the problem? Like, there's a way that could work and could be really interesting. And as much as I want to entertain that idea, because I think that could be a nice twist, I saw the trailer. I know it's not. I know the big kaiju monster's the mermaid. And she's fun. I will be honest, though. I think she's actually pretty boring when she becomes a kaiju. It's a lot like Tyrek from Friendship is Magic. Where at first, when he's physically very weak, hasn't absorbed a lot of magic, I think he's really interesting. The way he can't just overpower people. He has to use his words. He has to manipulate. He has to be careful. Once he's absorbed enough magic and he just becomes a big Dragon Ball Z villain, you're like, okay, like I like his design. Like he's a big fucking red centaur, but his character is now boring. He's just, I am big, strong dude. And it's the same shit with Chelsea. Like, when she has to pretend to be Ruby's friend, it's interesting. Like, I kind of feel the vibe. I know it's bullshit, but I can kind of see what's going on. Like, this is fun. I think she's super funny and super narcissistic. It's great. And then when she becomes the big monster, she's just kind of like, I big monster, I destroy, you can't defeat me, I have Trident. Like, this. All of your fun writing went out the window. But then after she gets beaten and she just goes back to normal, just immediately the funny writing comes back. And it's like, okay, this is great. Speaking of which, let me just talk about some things that made me laugh. The Algebay line from the trailer, I just think that's cute. I think that's fucking precious. Like, I want to watch this movie. This is adorable. The whole promposal. So, they do this whole bit about, like, okay, when you ask someone to prom, you can't just ask someone to prom. Like, this is a big fucking deal. You gotta go big. You gotta use, like, confetti cannons. You gotta, like, dress up as fucking Santa Claus. Like, okay, someone doesn't do that, but someone does dress up as, like, a thing. But, like, they just keep talking about, like, how over the top and big you have to be, and you see people doing it, and it's really funny to me. I loved it. Also, the way Ruby was going to ask out Connor was she had a graphing calculator. She's like, yeah, so I put in some, like, quadratic equations and shit because I'm his tutor. And so here's my plan is when he solves it, the way it's going to graph out, it's just going to read prom with a question mark. And I love it. I'm so proud of it. And her friends go, hun, no, that is too dorky even for you. And we love you. That's not going to do it. And then at the end of the movie, he basically did the same thing to her. And I'm like, oh, this is cute. Like, I like this. This is just sweet. I guess it just Chelsea in general is really funny. There's this one scene with Mr. Lighthouse. Okay, there's one where he's being interviewed and his pet crab, which I forgot to say, like, there's our Sebastian of the movie. He doesn't say anything, but he's got a pet crab that just attacks the interviewer. So the Lighthouse just grabs the camera and the microphone is just going on a ramble. But there's a part where he's talking about, he's like, okay, like, about how Krakens have ruined his life and, like, the hunt for Krakens and shit. And he's like, well, I mean, if it wasn't for, like, a chance encounter with a Kraken, I wouldn't have bought the boat. If I didn't buy the boat, I wouldn't have had to mortgage the house. And if I didn't mortgage the house, Tammy wouldn't have left me. There's a part later where I don't remember, it's like after trying to catch the Kraken, after like he thinks he did, or after catching Chelsea at the end of the movie, where he's like, who would want to divorce me now, Tammy? Like, this is some peak DreamWorks humor right there. I loved that shit. Ruby has a goth friend who I remember Clay was like, why is Wednesday Addams in this movie? But she just has a few lines that really made me laugh where she's just like talking about some like really dark apocalyptic shit. And I'm just a sucker for that. I always just think it's funny. My favorite joke in the movie though It comes in a serious scene between Ruby and Agatha where they're talking about like, I don't want to have to hide, but I'm doing it so I can keep the family safe kind of shit. Where I don't remember the exact wording, but it's something along the lines of, I have to pretend to have a spine, Mom. And I was just fucking chortling for the next 2 minutes. I was like, okay, I know we're having a serious scene. I know you're talking about, family issues and generational trauma and how Mom had an issue with Grandmama, now you're having an issue with Mom, and, we hope we don't continue the cycle and shit, but I'm sorry, just like, I have to pretend I have a spine. It's really funny to me. So, overall, I think it's very clear that I had a good time with Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken. Is it on the level of like The Last Wish? No, although Puss in Boots is in the movie. There is a cameo very early on of like the cat playing piano and he's just wearing Puss in Boots' clothes. I'm like, yeah, he's, after a movie that good, he is just kind of going to be DreamWorks mascot 80. Let's just do it. It's not that good to me. I don't think I can really put it in A tier. For me, I think it's a B tier. I guess to me, I'm like, it's a B plus A minus. Kind of fluctuates. And like, I had a really fun time watching it. I don't know how willing I am to just say like, I want to watch it again. Maybe on a rewatch, I would get like, okay, now that I really know where this is going and everything, it's just not clicking. Or it might be the opposite. I'm like, okay, watching it a second time, excuse me, I really liked it. I liked it more than the first time. I don't know. But I feel like, yeah, it's like I had a good time. I don't think it's amazing, but I think it's good. I genuinely think it is worth going, like, to give a watch. I know Clay was not nearly as impressed. He was like, yeah, he finds it very forgettable. I think to him, it's a C tier movie. So if we were doing the joint tier list, like if this was out when we were doing it, if my highest is A, his highest is C, like we can maybe probably compromise on a B tier. I feel like that's feels fair, which does mean because B had the most amount of movies, I guess in that way it's like a quintessential DreamWorks movie. For better or for worse, but again, I had a very good time with Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken. If you have seen it, I hope you had a good time as well. Are you one of those people that just had no idea this movie is coming out? Because like I said, apparently that was a lot of fucking people. But like if you did see it, if you were one of the few people that did, God bless this movie's heart. Did you enjoy it? Were you like Claire? Like it's super forgettable, didn't do anything for you? Are you like me? Like, yeah, it's pretty tropey. It's very familiar, but I still liked it. Still had a good time. And let me know. And I don't know when I'll do the next. Well, I mean, tomorrow's gonna be Thursday, so I'll do a card talk, and then I still need to do the House of Leaves probably tomorrow. I don't think I'm gonna do it today. It's probably tomorrow, but I'll see you guys then. Bye.